people aren't taking that extra time. Thus, they're coming back here, and their hands are wetter than with the towels.
Both the smell and the clammy hands suggest that the dryer is not eliminating pathogens from people's palms. But what does the data say?
Here it is. All of our data gathered from 16 test subjects on both the air dryer and the paper towels. 96 pieces of data in all. And this isn't everything that we're gathering today.
Because we're not just concerned about spreading bacteria on people's hands. We're also going to test the immediate environment around where they dry them to see what, if any, bacterial spread there is there as well.
So Adam gets down and dirty with one final swabbing sequence.
But there's a lot right here.
As he collects 10 samples from identical points in each bathroom.
Well, let's get these back to the shop and start growing some bacteria.
I've got my incubator warm and ready to go.
That sounded creepy. Let's go.
24 hours later, with bacteria sprouting like there's no tomorrow,
There's a lot.
the guys count every colony
59, 60, 61. Lamb.
in every sample
Here we go.
before they're finally ready to wrap up the results.
All right. The great hand towel versus air dryer debate. The results are in. Are you ready to hear them?
Sure.
Pretty stunning. When we had our test subjects dry their hands with the air dryer, they were able to reduce the bacterial load on their hands by 23%.
Okay.
But when we had the individuals dry their hands with the hand towel, they were able to reduce the bacterial load on their hands by 71%, almost 3 times as much.
That's amazing. But that's for the individual. What about for the environment?
Well, when we swabbed the area around the air dryer, we found a total of 41 colonies of bacteria. When we swabbed the area around the hand towel, we found 3.
Which yet again indicates that the air dryer is spreading more bacteria than the hand towels.
Indeed, they do. This myth is totally confirmed. The claims of the air dryers just don't hold up.
It's just hot air.
When an earthquake quivers, are you better off decamping in the doorway?
The small scale is done. Now it is time to move on to the full-scale shake table. Now, the construction of this is going to be a bit of a challenge.
Looking good, looking good.
The dimensions will be 11 by 13 feet, but we're going to be using square steel tube with half-inch thick wall.
I think we're good.
This stuff is strong. It has to be strong, because once we start building buildings on top of it and shaking them down, this thing has to withstand thousands of pounds of force.
Their steel is clearly the real deal.
There's about 5,000 pounds of steel here. And according to my back, that's a lot.
And once the top side's welded tight, cue the forklift foxtrot. With the frame finally flipped out, the guys make short work of a long job. And yet still, the build has barely just begun.
Did you hear that? That's an earthquake coming.
We've now completed the heavy-duty steel structure, which is going to be the base of our shake table. Now we need to build what shakes it. For that, we're building 8 monuments. These are pneumatic springs, or air springs. Usually they're used in semi-truck trailer beds so that it can balance loads or provide some extra spring. For us, they're going to be on the edges of our shake table, and they're going to provide 10,000 pounds of force each. With 8 of them, that's 80,000 pounds. That ought to shake things up.
Now this one's finished. We only got 7 more to go.
These no-nonsense pneumatics will help shake the quake back and forth. And once they're secured into place and attached to the frame,
Oh, Susanna, don't you cry for me.
the guys have one more trick up their sleeves.
Oh. These are the air casters. This is the most exciting part. Remember the shake table at the museum? Their shake table is able to move on an XY plane. Ours is going to be even better. Ours is going to be able to move on a Z plane as well. How? With these. These are Arago air casters, and they're able to lift 8,000 pounds each. Now, we're gonna have 6 of them, 4 in each corner and 2 in the middle. These are gonna allow our shake table to not only move side to side, forwards and backwards, but also up and down. So let's face it, it's worth doing. It's worth overdoing.
Indeed. And the one thing that still needs overdoing
Gotta show him who's boss.
is to put in place the plumbing.
It's pretty manly work. Putting the man in the manifold.
By nightfall, it's finally ready for a test.
After hours of designing and days of heavy building, the earthquake table is finally done. Now, behind me is a fleet of air compressors. Now, it's important that we have a lot of air for this table to work, and I'll show you why. Now, compressed air will be moving through these hoses into this manifold where it will be distributed to 6 separate air casters. Now, once those air casters inflate, the whole table will lift up and it will actually ride on a cushion of air.
Our second source of air is going to come through these hoses, through these pipes, and to these air bladders. They're going to control the shaking so the table stops quaking.
Now, all the valves that control the air bladders are going to this bank of relays, which is going to this microcontroller and this computer. We can control each of those valves separately so that we can get exactly the magnitude of earthquake that we need. You want to see it? Fire up the compressors! It's time to put this sucker to work.
With the air on, the guys are going to kick off
Charging the air casters.
with the up-down test.
Here we go. In 3, 2, 1. It's working!
First impressions are good. Second impressions
It's like an earthquake!
are even better.
It's working! Dude, all right, so that's the up and down.
All right, let's see what the side to side can do.
Okay, you guys ready? 3, 2, 1! The 6.0 in the awesome scale!
Ain't that the truth? With the air casters controlling the up and down and the pneumatic cylinders pumping iron back and forth, the biggest build in MythBusters history is ready to rock.
This is an amazing success!
Now all we need to do is build a house.
And then see if we can shake it down. This is awesome.
Coming up next on MythBusters! Find out what it's gonna take to shake the house down! Oh, happy! Hello?
And Adam and Jamie cut the crap.
Oh, man, someone here didn't flush. That's gross.
There's no restroom respite, because next up, is it all for one and one for all?
Next up in toilet trouble, we have a myth that in a bathroom, a public restroom of multiple stalls, the stall closest to the door is going to be the cleanest and also least used stall.
Why would that be the case?
I personally avoid that stall because I'm assuming everyone else has jumped in it and it's probably filthy.
Well, I'd imagine some people also want more privacy, so they'd go to the other end of the bathroom.
In either case, the myth is the same, that people, for whatever reason, are avoiding the stall closest to the door, and thus it unexpectedly is a bastion of cleanliness in a public restroom.
Well, I guess it's time to get down and dirty.
Nice pun.
Restroom routines waver widely. But is it true that we all tend to steer clear of stall one, making it the freshest faucet of all?
I'm going to go out on a limb and say I think the plan here is pretty straightforward. Can you guess what I'm thinking?
Find a public restroom, stake it out, count how many people use what stalls.
Yes, but we'd also use some of our bacteriological testing knowledge to measure how dirty each of the stalls is at the end of our test.
Sure, why not?
How hard could that be?
Over the years we've been doing MythBusters, we've been granted access to props and locations to do our experiments that, well, when we first started, would have seemed completely impossible. We got a 747 that we were allowed to get behind to test the power of hurricane force winds. We were even allowed to sink a boat in the protected wildlife sanctuary of Monterey Bay and then to raise it back up again with 30,000 ping pong balls. But finding a public restroom with 4 stalls that we could film and test in has proven to be one of the biggest bears we've ever had to tackle. Luckily, we believe we found the bathroom, and it's here at the Cal Maritime Academy. Not only is it one of the best maritime academies in the country, but they've got a bathroom that they're willing to let us film in, and I think it's going to be perfect.
It's not often a public bathroom can be perfect, But for this stall tall tale, this restroom rules.
Now, please bear with us. There's only so many interesting ways you can film a restroom, but the basic myth is this, that in a public restroom, stall number 1, that is the one closest to the door, is both the cleanest and the least used because of 2 assumptions people make about human behavior.
The first is that people assume because of its proximity to the door, the first stall is the most used and therefore the dirtiest, and therefore they pick another stall.
The second assumption people make is that people will avoid the first stall and go all the way to the end because they want privacy. Auditory privacy.
Either way, the net result is the same. Is the first stall the least used and therefore the cleanest? That's what we're going to test.
And to do just that, the guys need 2 dollops of data that they'll collect over 4 days. Bathroom bacteria and U-bend usage. A mechanical door clicker is a simple solution for logging toilet traffic.
Perfect.
And with all 4 installed on the stalls, next, it's time to cut the crap.
I win.
As Adam and Jamie, along with some mean cleaners, give the bathroom a bacteria blitz.
For us to record the amount of bacteria in each stall, we need to start with a clean slate. That's what all this cleaning is about, eliminating traces of bacteria so any colonies we find at the end of the experiment have all grown during the test and not before.
That's the theory. And once the restroom is a pathogen-free zone, the experiment can begin.
That's it. All the counters are zeroed.
Well, everything's been swabbed. Let's get out of here.
All right.
So, let the crapping commence.
Okay, so by now you know that we are testing the myth that standing in a doorway is the best place to be during an earthquake. Now, we learned from the California Academy of Sciences that the origin of this myth is possibly in unreinforced masonry buildings. Now, it's a common type of building around the world as well as in historical buildings in the United States. So we found ourselves some skilled masons. They're going to build a structure on our shake table, and once it's cured, we're going to try to shake it down.
Yep, for test 1, the MythBusters don't need to be movers or shakers.
Between the lines.
Because this house is being time-lapsed into place by experts. And once the concrete's left to cure for 3 whole weeks, it's time to decorate.
Wow, I really like what you did with the place, Grant. You really made this a home.
For the subsequent shakedown, it's important that the inside is as realistic as the outside. And that means furniture, knickknacks, and mannequins.
I'm placing 3 mannequins around the room, 1 underneath the table, 1 just standing in the room, and 1 standing in the doorway. Now, for this myth to be confirmed, the one in the doorway is going to fare the best in the quake. And to assess relative damage, we have an accelerometer in the head, and I'm placing shock watches around their bodies. Very muscular, rock hard abs.
So I'm no mason, but I did observe how this building was being built, and it conforms to how you would have built something in pre-code olden days, which means that there are strong points and weak points. Now, these corners are one of the strongest parts of the building. There's rebar going all the way up to the ceiling with poured concrete. Same thing for the door, all the way around the arch. That's all solid. So by the end of this, my personal opinion is that the only thing left standing is going to be this wall with the front door.
So Grant's money is on the myth. But before the Earth moves,
Excuse me.
there's one final piece of the puzzle. Some U.S. Geological Survey sensors that will record the magnitude of their tremor.
All right, we are set to shake the building down. Okay. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh, wow. The chandelier is going crazy. Wow. That is a lot of power.
Right from the get-go, their quake is quivering. Up, down, left, and right, with the same power as San Francisco's 1906 shock. And yet this olden days style building is holding firm. But not for long.
Yeah,
Above the window. Coming out. Oh, crap. Oh, look at that.
After just 15 seconds, the sidewall is already in pieces. And mannequin 1 is also down for the count.